Good evening. One of the main reasons why I've always had a great time with digital audio workstations was how cool the technology is, and Studio One is no different. In this video, I'm going to go over just a couple of real quick things on automation, and there are plenty of other videos that you can see out there about this, but hopefully this will make it really obvious how quick and easy automation is in Studio One. Okay, so I've got Studio One here up on the screen. And what I'm going to show you is a little bit of automation using a built-in effect. So I'm going to use the analog delay, and I'm going to be using my Adderall PCR 800 keyboard. But anything with sliders or knobs or anything like that can be used to do these controls and then to record the automation as well. Now I have other options here too, such as the FaderPort 8 that's sitting in front of me, the Console 1 from SoftTube that's over here, and then of course, you know, the effects knobs themselves that are on the screen. Any of that can be used to do any of these automations. It's just kind of fun to do the hands-on thing. So I want to show you just a couple of real quick examples of how to do that in Studio One. So to make things simple, we want them to be fast, we want them to be easy, and we want them to not get in the way of the process. So what I want to show you is real quick. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, I'm sure you've seen these two things up here, where you've got a parameter here on the left, and you've got the controller that's going to control it on the right. So this is when you want to connect a physical item to a virtual item, right? So in this case, this is my PCR 800. This is slider number 9, which controls my main out volume. I always have that right over here in my reach, so I can just turn my mains up and down, super simple, and it happens to be, you know, right here to my left. So when you want to control something, you can either use these up here, or within any plugin in the upper right, you'll see this little gear, and when you click that gear, it exposes those same items here. It's just a little quicker and easier to get to because they're right there inside the plugin, so you're not having to go all the way up to the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And basically all you have to do is touch the control that you want to control, then touch the item on your controller, and then click this little arrow that sits right here between the two to turn it blue, which turns that particular controller on. So let's see how that works here. We're going to click feedback. We'll see our feedback level gets selected. I'm going to move slider 1 on my keyboard, and so you see slider 1 show up there, and then I am going to click this little blue arrow. Bang. Now, those two are tied together. So when I move slider 1, and again, kind of just watch here, you can see my value here is changing, but then also my feedback value is changing, right? It is that simple to tie a physical control to a virtual one. And then you can, of course, automate that parameter using that slider. Now, where it gets really cool is when you can do more than one slider. And so I'm going to use, say, the feedback on 1 and the, you know, the dry wet level, say, for example, we'll click that. You'll see that my mix turns on there. I'm going to move slider 2 and then connect those two together. And so now you can see I've got control of that as well, and I can actually control both. So you can see this knob and the dry wet knob are moving, or in opposite directions, of course. And I'm just doing this with 2 fingers on my controller, so you can do whatever you want. And of course, you want to have logical things that happen paired up so that they make sense, but that's just a real quick example. So let's move over from an effect over to an instrument. So in this case, I've got the Analog Lab 4. This is something that I got with the Studio One purchase. I actually upgraded this to get more presets, but it's still available to anybody who gets the Studio One stuff. Of course, you could just buy it directly from Arturia as well. So in this case, we've got this little keyboard representation at the bottom, and we've got all these little sliders and knobs, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my LFO amount here. So again, we've got the gear. We can see them here. And I'm going to click my, well, let's use cutoff. That's a little bit more common thing that may want to control, right? So I'm going to click on the cutoff. You see my cutoff value goes there. And I'm actually going to use one of my little rotaries over here, right? And so you can see rotary 8 has been turned. Click those two together and bang, now I have control of cutoff. And another common one that you would have maybe be resonance. So you see I click that, I move rotary number 7 and tie those together. And now I have control of my cutoff and my resonance at the same time on two different dials. It's really cool. It's really fast to set it up. And so it's not some big labor that you have to go through. I think we've probably all been in those kinds of pieces of software where stuff that seems like it ought to be easy isn't. And in this case, it actually is easy. So let's give you another example. And this one is a little less obvious and one that I had wanted for the longest time. I had originally bought SampleTank 2, and SampleTank 2, ancient interface, right? Then we bumped up to SampleTank 3. I never upgraded to SampleTank 3, but I did get the what they call the custom shop. And the custom shop is a free download that allows you to load in a la carte samples. So happens also that you can take your entire SampleTank 2 library and read that in to the custom shop app for SampleTank 3. And again, same thing with SampleTank 4, which I've most recently added here and finally does an easy way to do the automation inside of Studio One. So this is that. We've got, actually I've loaded both my SampleTank and my Sonic Synth sample sets in here. Now this one works a little bit differently. So you watch this up here, like usual, when we move this frequency, which is the cutoff frequency, and you'll see nothing happens. This has always been a problem with SampleTank, is it doesn't behave quite the same way as most of the other plugins and stuff work. However, here's what's cool. Right click on this and choose Automate, bing, and now we have this in the upper right. Well, now I'm going to choose my slider number 7, right? So there's slider 7, and now we're going to tie those together, and now I have control of the frequency. I'm going to do that same thing again. We'll go resonance here, right click, automate. Now we have the resonance, and you can kind of prove that out by just moving the dial, and you can see that that dial is then controlling that set of numbers up there. And then I'm going to move slider number 8 on my keyboard, and I'm going to tie those two things together, and now we've got sliders 7 and 8 that can work kind of in tandem, right? So you can see I can do sweeps like that. I can pretty easily control two things at once. Very cool. Now let's take that one more example here. So we're going to go into SampleTank, and I'm going to expand that out. I'm going to hit record here, and we're going to actually record that automation so you can see what it's doing. So I hit record, and now I'm moving slider 7 down and back up, and I'm going to move slider 8 down and back up, and then I'm going to move them both together and then both opposite of each other. And you can see all of that is getting recorded. And then I can, of course, go back and I can look at that in the editor view. And when we bring that editor view in to the screen here, you will see that we've got those parameters over here and my automations have taken place. So you can kind of see those automations are in the track. As we, of course, we can scroll back and you can see more of that, and you can see the two separated out. I hope that this video has been useful to you. One of the things I really like to do when I get new applications is understand how they work, what all they can do for me, and how I can get in and out of processes while it's creative, which is way easier to do if it's fast and if it's easy and it's just like super, intuitive. And I think Studio One has really done a great job of that. So again, I hope this video has been useful for you. If you liked it, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, share the video with others, and have a great night.